Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, Pam Frazier and I are the consultants for the superintendent search for Ladue. And thank you, Grace, because I am going to comment about that as part of the presentation. So the objective of the forum was to share key information with those who came to the forums that came out of the survey. It was to also gain a better understanding of the feedback that we received from the survey and from the people who attended. It gave us an opportunity to meet a diverse group of students, parents, community members, teachers, and staff as well, and help us hone in on the priorities for the next superintendent. So as you know, we had a community forum that went several days. We invited students, district support staff, certified staff, principals, directors, central office staff, parents, and guardians. One of the things that the Board of Education stressed to us was wanting to give everybody an opportunity to have a voice.
Okay, now we're going to do a quick review of the survey results because, as you know, those survey results help guide the conversations at the forums. So if you recall, there were 92 students that responded. There were 45 support staff, 116 teachers, 21 administrators, 413 parents or guardians, school board members. Now that says 6, as we noted before. That doesn't mean all 7 did not respond. They might have identified in a different area. There were community members and then some in the other category. So the strengths that came out in the survey were academic excellence, dedicated, caring teachers, strong community, diversity, and equity, and then the facilities and resources were also considered a strength. Now, opportunities for the Ladue School District was enhanced student support and resources, streamlining some communications, teacher and staff resources, expanded curriculum, and then student behavior management. So the desired qualifications, everyone was asked to rank them. On the desired qualifications, the number 1 there was recruit, supports, and retains effective staff members. Number 2 was the strong instructional leader. And then there was a tie for promotes a community of care and support for students and fosters a positive culture and climate for teachers and staff was tied for 3rd. Now the traits, the most desired traits ended up being the first one is approachable and accessible. The second one was that they demonstrate ethics and integrity. And then the 3rd one, that the candidate demonstrates collaborative leadership. So when you put those qualifications and traits together, here's the top 10. So number 1, approachable, accessible, welcoming. Number 2, recruit, supports, and retain effective staff members. And you can see, I'm not going to read all those to you, going down the list of all of the desirable qualifications and traits. And then the last one was effectively manages the district resources. All right, now we're going to go back to Joy Lynn, who's going to go over the forums.
So where did we go from there with the survey? We then had 8 community forums, 2 with students on seminar days. We did limit the number of students to 40 for each session because we really wanted to give our students an opportunity to talk and have conversation. We had district support staff, we had district certified staff, district directors and principals, assistant principals, central office, and then our parent groups. We did that over a 2-day spectrum, November 3rd and November 6th. We had a total of 50 students, and let me tell you, they were amazing. I can't stress to you how open, as Grace indicated, multiple times they talked about having an opportunity to have conversations. We had 34 teachers, staff, and administrators combined, and we had a total of 8 parents for a total of 92 participants. When we talked to some of the parents, just to put a sense of calm, many of the parents who did come said that they had responded to the survey, and that a lot of people, if you're satisfied, you don't come out because you've already had your voice on the survey. So the survey, what we got was from those 10 characteristics and traits that Pam just went through with you. And so we garnered questions around each of those, pulling from the survey information that we received. And so what we did then was came up with questions. We had 5 sets of questions that addressed those 10 traits that I initially spoke to. So as it relates to being approachable and accessible and welcoming, let me first say that any of the comments made tonight have nothing to do with Jim. However, I will say that many people had a hard time separating Jim from what they want. They routinely said, well, Dr. Whipke does this, or Jim does this, and I had to say, this is not about him. What do you want in your next superintendent? Even if it is something that he does extremely well, say, the next superintendent, we would like for them to do this. So I just want you to know, Jim, you are truly loved. I just thought I'd put that out there. Under the umbrella of approachable, accessible, and welcoming, we took all of the language that we received from everyone and tried to fine-tune it into what did those traits look like? What do they want to see in the next candidate, or what do they want to see demonstrated? They want someone who's a strong communicator. Multiple times in our student groups, they talked about someone who is a great public speaker. They said it in each group, someone who's a great public speaker. When we met with staff, that came up again, someone who is comfortable standing in front of groups of people and speaking. Being visible and involved in schools at student events, not just football, because we were told there's a great art program here. They want to see a superintendent who's going to be at all of those and not do what they call like what did they tell me, the parade wave as they go through a building, but go into classrooms, see what teachers are teaching, see what students are learning, and ask questions. They want someone who's going to be active and engaged in the community, not just if it's a school district function, but if it's a community festival or something like that, or sitting in a restaurant on a Saturday having lunch. Someone who is genuine in all interactions. One of the staff members said, you can tell if someone is genuine by their body language. If they are not genuine, they are tense and stiff. So they want someone who's going to be genuine in interactions. Someone who is relationship focused, not just with staff and community, but students. That came up multiple times. The students talked about that the current superintendent, who shall remain nameless at this time, has meetings with student council and so forth. They would like to have an opportunity, hint, hint, to the next superintendent, to come in, for the superintendent to come in at lunchtime and just sit in the cafeteria and have conversations with students that aren't invited, but just any student who wants to sit and have that conversation. And then they want someone who is going to continue to build on the strong partnerships that exist in the Ladue School District. Additionally, they want, as I said, a good public speaker. That came up multiple times, someone who is comfortable standing in front of groups of students, community members, and staff. And someone who has an open mindset, is willing to listen, take feedback, not take it personally, but learn from that. They also noticed, especially one of the students gave us a long note that talked about know and embrace the diversity of this community, and that's what makes up Ladue School District. You know, I learned during those forum sessions there are 66 different languages in the Ladue school system, and our students said that that needs to be recognized, and some of the staff even talked about the schools that have a high number of students who speak another language. That you are open, the next superintendent is open to those regular meetings and dialogues with students. You're going to see that multiple times because it kept coming up across multiple questions, having that time, and believe that student voice should be factored in some of the decisions that are being made. When it came to number 2, which was recruits, supports, and retains effective staff members, it came up strong professional knowledge of professional development and new teacher development, building trust, and showing consistency in direction, not someone who's going to waver back and forth because people may be disgruntled about a decision being made. Again, someone who is visible and willing to listen, and recruiting more diverse staff that is reflective of our student population. That came from our student group. And foster an open communication and a listening culture. some of the students said they know that the superintendent has an open door, but that's over at central office. And so being more visible in the schools and taking time, not just at the high school, not just at the middle school, but at all of our schools, and talking with students just about the things that may interest them, sort of like you're going to do tonight with your work group. Also, show appreciation for staff contributions. That came up a lot across our staff conversations. Recognize feedback from the staff, be receptive to that feedback, because this is a team. And you have people who are well-versed in their positions, and that whoever that next individual is should tap into that expertise, especially the voices of the women who are in the room. Ongoing communication with the staff, not just at the start of the school year, but they want someone who is going to send quarterly newsletters. The students even want regular communication from the superintendent. And then respect for the position and expertise of all staff members. They don't want someone who is going to come in and change everything and not take the opportunity to look, observe, learn, and listen to the great things that are already happening in the Ladue School District. The third one that came up at the top of our list was demonstrates ethics and integrity. And what does that look like, we asked, when you see someone? Consistency in standards and expectations. They want someone who is honest, open-minded, who will provide a safe space for alternative points of view, being respectful and genuine, and has a track record of high integrity, not just in words, but in their actions, and the ability to say no. So when that came up across multiple groups, when we asked, what does that mean? The ability to say no. That there's a lot of initiatives, and sometimes when you have a new superintendent, they want to jump from the flavor of the month that comes down the road. Not doing that, but looking at what's currently in place, and instead of adding something on, being courageous enough to say, no, not right now, we have enough to do, we're going to make sure that the things that we are doing last. And they also indicated someone who communicates truthfully with the board, the staff, students, and the community. Additionally, ensures compliance with laws, board policies, professional codes of ethics, and approaches conflict and with compassion and understanding, and sees the diverse perspective of others. The other one was demonstrates collaborative leadership. We had a lot of input on this one, and that was being open to new ideas. The students wanted to make sure that the funding is spread out so that teachers have the resources that they need, and that students are able to receive the services that they need. Be responsive to feedback. Build a bridge of the achievement gap, because they recognize that while yes, Ladue is a high-performing school district, there are some students who also have some challenges. And also they talked about putting programs in place not only for our gifted students, not only for our students with IEPs and 504s, but those students who are going to get it whether we're here or not. They too need supports and resources, and someone who understands that and sees the value of learning ways for kids. Someone who will learn from their cabinet and respect their knowledge and expertise. The comment added to that one is they are not the Lone Ranger, but they need to be able to come in and learn from the team that is here. And that means including teachers, staff, and administration in the decisions that are being made. I'm pausing for a second, see if there's any questions before I move on, okay? Under strong instructional leadership, someone who can articulate and consistently reinforce a vision focused on student learning and achievement. That's big. It came up from I heard so much about AP, removing the barriers to AP. I'm sure, Tim, you know, removing the barriers from AP, allowing freshmen to have AP. I heard a lot about AP. And so they want someone who will prioritize equitable access to high quality instruction and resources for all kids. Move the challenges and the barriers out of the way is what we heard. That sees instructional excellence as an ongoing journey rather than a destination. That there is room for Ladue to continue to grow, and not say we're here because we are Ladue, but we continue to grow. Has a strong grasp, now this came from students and staff and administration, a strong grasp of curriculum design, standards, alignment, and assessment so that that person can support the educational journey, that understands effective teaching strategies and can recognize high quality instruction during classroom visits. That goes back to that earlier comment about going into rooms, taking the opportunity to talk to students about what he or she is learning, being able to tell if the teacher is on track with the curriculum or not. And then someone who uses student performance data to inform their decisions and identify trends to guide future interventions. Another one that came up, they want someone who is going to bring out the success in others and not just hone in on that on themselves. So being able to communicate a clear vision again for teaching and learning, and by principals, teachers, and staff to help co-create goals, will value feedback from staff, family, and students, making people feel seen and heard, and recognize the achievements, which you do extremely well, and demonstrate a growth mindset for continuous improvement. That goes back to the goal setting. That goes back to not looking for a destination, but continuing that journey. Promoting a culture, a community of care for students. That came up a lot across all conversations. And that goes back to, I guess, what Grace was speaking about, implementing a superintendent student focus group that meets regularly during the school year. We know there's a group that meets, but this is one that is open to any student who wants to come and then to listen. To be accountable for learning at all levels, the teacher said they want someone who, if they don't have the knowledge or have not taught across all grade levels, be willing to learn what should be taught at pre-K all the way through 12th grade. Someone who, again, will attend student events, not just football, but the arts program and the other activities that take place, will support programs for the whole child and allocate resources to meet student needs, particularly those who have special needs, is what came up. And fosters a positive climate and culture for teachers, staff, and we added students. Because in our conversation, we realized that if the culture and climate for teachers is poor, it ultimately impacts teaching and learning. If the culture and climate for students is poor, it ultimately impacts teaching and learning. So during the focus groups, we just agreed we'd add students to that mix. And so they want someone, a superintendent, who will communicate a shared vision rooted in respect, belonging, and collective success. Not just success for some, but success for all. That their words and their actions will reflect hope, confidence, even when times are challenging. And ensure that district policies, goals, and decisions reflect the values of care, collaboration, and high expectations that you have established that is a part of who you are as Ladue School District. And then exhibits transparent decision-making. Ensure stakeholders understand not just the decisions that are made, but why those decisions that are made. That a lot of times people may not agree with the decisions, but once they know the why, they adjust. Provide timely progress reports on key initiatives and decisions, not just at the end of the process. Something came up about a school being built or something that not everybody knew, but so that was one they asked that I please put in this presentation. Genuinely considers feedback and shows how it shaped that final decision, and then base decisions on evidence of research and clear priorities rather than personal preferences or politics. Not the last one, was effectively manage district resources. Allocating financial, human, and material resources based upon the district's strategic plan and instructional priorities. Clearly explaining the budgetary decisions and financial priorities to the board, staff, and to the community. Prioritize, again, professional learning and leadership development as critical resource investments, and build positive relationships across all employee groups, particularly support staff. A profile. So here's what we got from all of that when we take that information and massage it into what does the ideal candidate for the Ladue School District look like. Someone who will be student-centered. We heard that routinely. At the core of every single decision that is made, it has to be student-centered. Be visible, a relationship builder who communicates transparently, who executes a clear multi-year vision, not someone who's going to come in, stay a minute, and then leave, who develops and retains the high-quality staff that you have here, who uses data to improve achievement, who partners effectively with not only the board but the community as well, and who stewards budget operations prudently and ensures a safe, inclusive schools with integrity and calm. Normally we don't show this piece in the public meeting, but there's a section in the survey about advice. There were so many poignant points in that survey that we decided we would share this in a public meeting. One that stood out was maintain Ladue's high standards and continue to push Ladue forward and higher. This is advice to the next superintendent. Always put students first and at the forefront of decisions. Be a collaborative leader and use your team to help make decisions. Spend your first months deeply listening to staff, students, and family. Lean into us, I love this one, and let us know how we can support you. Lead with integrity. Expect the same from your district. Genuine expectations as a leader for those working for or with you. Spend time in our classrooms, community, and be open to bringing fresh ideas while keeping Ladue's traditions intact. Work hard, be honest, and be seen. Collaborate with your teachers and staff and bring a positive attitude. Be an advocate for our students and keep the staff and students safe. We have many outspoken families and community members, but there is also a population of our community that we don't often hear from. We have to be sure that we are including them when making decisions as well. And then the last one, we are in this together. We are stronger together. This district is something special. That one just kind of gets to you. So what's next? As you know, the window closes Friday, so any of you who are listening to this, who have your applications in the queue, we advise you and encourage you to get them done. Next week, we will meet with the board, and during that time, we will look through all of the candidates, because the board gets every single application, and at that time, the board will make the decision on who they are going to do a semifinalist interview with. During the week of December 1st, the board will screen those semifinalists, 5 to 8 candidates. They may pick more. And then the week of December 8th will be the final interviews. All of those sessions moving from here to that point are all closed and are not open to the public. This is now time for the board to focus in on the applications that have been received and take the next steps to picking the next superintendent for the Ladue School District. Are there any questions?
No, thank you so much for all of this and then for aggregating all this information and presenting it. And I wrote this question down before you had it was one of the last slides on the ideal candidate. And as I was looking at all of the different bullet points on evidence, and then even when you got to the ideal candidate slide, I mean, yes, those are all things that I certainly associate with effective leadership in Ladue, but I kind of also was thinking if I was in another district, wouldn't I feel I'd want that same kind of leader and those same qualities? So my question is more just in your experience, were there any particular outliers that really stood out? And this isn't to compare us with another district, but something where, you know, everyone wants transparency, involvement, visibility, you know, effective in front of a crowd, integrity, and all of those wonderful characteristics you walked through. But was there anything where you're like, this was particularly unique to Ladue that came out through these listening sessions?
I would say yes, but I want to answer your comment about this as well. So yes, this is a composite overview, but we still take in all of those pieces that we just discussed. So if you're student-centered, what does that look like from those pieces that I've already shared? So this is just to kind of summarize it together. What stood out for me from each group, okay? What stood out for me about Ladue specifically in the superintendent searches that I've done? Your students who are so focused on their academic success. And I'm not trying to say that there are other school districts where students are not focused on academic success, but to hear the students talk about barriers to classes that they want to take is unusual. That's unusual. The students that we met with also wanted to focus on mental health, diversity, and having time with the superintendent. They know that there's a group that meets with the superintendent on a regular basis, but they want an opportunity to have a voice at the table. When it came to the staff, wanting to be a part of the team, wanting someone who, and that's not unusual, but someone to truly tap into the expertise that sits in this space now. And it was constantly talked about. No decisions are made that are not about kids. It's all with kids at the center. Sometimes you hear it, sometimes you don't. You hope that's what all decisions are made of, but those were just the common things that just kept being repeated regardless of what group we were in, and wanting that individual to not just be at school functions, but to be a part of this community. And when I say this community, it's not just even, what I got from that was not just even showing up at the events. Not, you heard me say, be in the restaurant, but truly embracing this community, all 10, that feed into Ladue and what makes it unique. And yes, you hear that from every school district, but it just resonated with me more directly than I have had it before. And I can't explain that to you other than this is a unique place.
Thank you very much, Joylyn. Thank you.
And I will say just really quickly, nobody complained about salary. Sometimes you hear that. No one complained about not feeling needed. Everyone we talked to talked about, I've been here 30 years, I've been here 25 years, I've been here 15 years. This is where I want to be. There was a young lady in the teacher group, she says, I've been here 2 years, and it's the best place I've been, and I'm not looking to go anywhere else. You don't always hear that. You always hear something in session from a negative perspective. That did not happen. That's unique.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joylyn and Pam. Are there any more questions about the presentation? Okay. We'll be seeing you next week.
See you next week.